Pattern 7972 Jasmine Stitch Sleeve Tutorial. First, you will start with a slip knot. Make 1 chain. Pull yarn up to around 1 centimeter. Yarn over hook and insert into 1 chain. Yarn over and pull up a loop to the same height of 1 centimeter. Repeat this 2 more times. You should have 7 loops on your hook. Yarn over hook, and while holding the back of your yarn, carefully pull through all loops on your hook. Insert your hook into the loop that you are holding. Yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook and chain 1. You have now completed your first puff stitch. Pull yarn up to around 1 centimeter. Yarn over and insert your hook into the 1 chain that closed the previous puff. Work as you did to create the first puff. Yarn over, and while holding the back of your yarn, pull through all 7 loops on your hook. Insert hook into the loop you are holding. Yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. Chain to close. Continue making puff stitches until you have the required amount. For this swatch, we made 10 puff stitches. To start the first row, you will need to make 1 additional puff stitch. This additional puff stitch will be called the anchor or turning puff. To start creating the Jasmine Stitch pattern, work as if you are going to create another puff, but this time, do not close off this puff. Work 2 more unclosed puff stitches in the spaces between the next 2 puff stitches. You should have a total of 19 loops on your hook after you have completed your 3 puff stitches. Yarn over hook. Hold the back of your yarn and carefully pull through all 19 loops on the hook. This can be tricky sometimes, so try and do it slowly. Insert hook into the loop you are holding. Yarn over and pull through both loops. You can now start to see the petals forming. To create the second set of petals, make 1 chain. Pull yarn up to around 1 centimeter. You will now work 3 unclosed puff stitches into the 3 spaces we are showing. Work an unclosed puff stitch into the 1 chain space that closed the previous petals and into each space between the next 2 puff stitches. Yarn over, hold the back of your yarn and pull through all loops on your hook. Close off with a slip stitch. Continue working the Jasmine stitch down the foundation row. We will come back to the last stitch to show you how to end off the row. Once you have got to the end of the row, you will work your last 3 puff stitches into the 3 spaces we are showing. The last puff stitch is worked into the 1 chain you created in the beginning. have now completed the first row of the Jasmine stitch. To start the second row, chain 1 and turn your work. Create an anchor puff. So yarn over, insert your hook, and drop a loop 3 times and close off with a slip stitch and 1 chain. Work 3 unclosed puff stitches in the 3 spaces indicated to create the petals. Continue working the Jasmine stitch to the end of the row. Once you get to the end of the row, you will complete a Jasmine stitch as normal, working your last puff into the space between puffs from the previous row. So it will be in this space where you create your third puff. You will keep repeating row 2 to create the pattern. So we have completed a few rows straight in the pattern, and you can clearly see the flowers formed by the pattern. We will now show you how we decreased on each side. To decrease at the beginning of the row, you will not work an anchor puff. Instead, work 3 unclosed puff stitches in the next 3 spaces to create the petals. You can now start to see a bit of shaping. Continue to work the Jasmine stitch as normal to the second last space of the row. Once you're at the end of the row, you should have 4 spaces left. 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of working 3 puff stitches, you are now going to work 4. Yarn over and pull through all loops on the hook. This can be a little tricky. Close off with a slip stitch. To work a row straight after a decrease row, you will start with the anchor puff and continue in Jasmine stitch as normal to the end of the row. Once you get to the end of the row, you should have 2 spaces left. Finish the Jasmine stitch as normal, working the last 2 puffs in these spaces. You can now start to see a bit of shaping as you progress. Each time you need to turn and decrease. Remember, do not work the anchor puff, just go straight into creating the petals. And once you get to the end of a decrease row, you work 4 puff stitches instead of 3. The shaping may seem uneven on both sides, but once it is folded together, the sides do line up. We hope you enjoyed following along with this tutorial. Happy crafting!